Good morning. I'm so used to saying it's nice to see you, but I can't see you. I can see a few people, but I know you're out there somewhere watching us for this service, and so I am glad that you've joined us today. This is September the 12th, and our nation is still remembering a terrible tragedy that happened 20 years ago. All of us old enough to remember where we were on September 11th, 2001. Not long after that, the evolutionary biologist Stephen Jay Gould wrote an essay, and he pointed out that on that day there was a single act of evil, but that there were thousands upon thousands of acts of good. He writes that the tragedy of human history lies in the enormous potential for destruction and rare acts of evil, not in the high frequency of evil people. Complex systems can only be built step by step, whereas destruction requires but an instant. Thus, in what I like to call the great asymmetry, every spectacular incident of evil will be balanced by 10,000 acts of kindness. Good and kind people outnumber all others by thousands to one. And that's why we come here, to be reminded of the goodness of human nature, to be reminded of the hopes and the dreams and the aspirations that will guide us forward, that will guide us past all the divisions and all the hatred and the bigotry and the ignorance. That's why we're here. Welcome to this place where we continue to journey together. Thank you. Oh, I should mention, this is our annual Water Communion Sunday, and you'll be learning all about that as we proceed. The annual Water Communion Sunday we hold on the second Sunday of September every year after the Labor Day weekend. It's our way of acknowledging the great worth and value of community. Thank you.
Our gathering hymn today is "We Are Not Our Own." It's number 317 in the gray hymnal.
We are not our own, earth forms us, human leaves on nature's growing vine, fruit of many generations, seeds of life divine. We are not alone, earth names us, past and present, peoples near and far, family and friends and strangers, show us who we are. Therefore let us make thanksgiving, and with justice willing and aware, give to earth and all things living liturgies of care. Let us be a house of welcome, living stone upholding living stone, gladly showing all our neighbors we are not alone.
Water, our blood. Air, our breath. Earth, our body. Fire, our spirit. Please, wherever you are, take a moment and pause and join with me in saying our affirmation. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. The following is by Laura Horton Ludwig. Fire and water, ancient opposites, sun and ocean, the cradle of life, dancing flame and dancing river, we invoke them together today as we kindle our chalice flames. And Rick is going to be lighting our first flame for our partner church, for our congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. And we light our second chalice for our third chalice for our children and youth in our religious education program and for all the children of the world. Please join us together as we sing our flame into light.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Take a deep breath wherever you are. Settle into this moment of your life. Be aware of the life within you and the life around you. Yesterday, we remembered a sorrow and a tragic anniversary when a cruel and a heartless action disrupted many lives. In the intervening years, it has often been hard for us. It's been hard for us to keep our spiritual bearings. We have fallen prey to false narratives. They carve humankind up into the good and the bad. And our world, our society, becomes more polarized. We're called to take a higher path. All of humankind's great religious traditions affirm the ideal of universal love and boundless compassion without limits. So too does our Unitarian Universalist tradition call for us to have boundless compassion, agape love for all beings. Let us be aware of all who have suffered and who suffer today, people within our nation and other lands where conflict has spread. Let us feel our compassion. Let compassion guide our steps. May we have compassion for ourselves, compassion for those around us, compassion for everyone, even those we may think of as enemies. Compassion is our way. And gratitude. What a difficult time we are in these days. People losing their rental assistance, people in the hospitals, so full, so much uncertainty. And so let us be there for one another. Let us be grateful to one another. Let us remember to tell those around us how grateful we are for what they offer us and how they enrich our lives. Every day, may your mind be lifted up to thoughts of compassion and gratitude. I invite you to reflect now for a moment and consider where you are being called. Where is compassion calling you? Where is gratitude calling you? And thus we walk our path day by day. These two guideposts, compassion and gratitude, will see us through to better places and more hope and more joy. And may it be so. Amen.
You may submit a joy or a concern by going to the UUCS website or to your newsletter and click on the link that will take you to Joys and Concerns. Type in your message and we will get it. Thank you.
Our pastoral hymn today is Thanks Be for These. It's number 322 in the gray hymnal. We're going to sing verses 1 through 3.
Thanks be for these life's holy times, moments of grief, days of delight, triumph and failure intertwine, shaping our vision of the right. Thanks be for these, for birth and death, life in between with meaningful. Holy becomes the quickened breath. We celebrate life's interval. Thanks be for these ennobling art, images welcome to our sight, music caressing ear and heart, inviting us to loftier height.
Affirmation of Hope by Loretta Williams. We, bearers of the dream, affirm that a new vision of hope is emerging. We pledge to work for that community in which justice will be actively present. We affirm that there is struggle yet ahead. Yet we know that in this struggle is the hope for the future. We affirm that we are co-creators of the future and not passive pawns. And we stand united in affirmation of our hope and vision of a just and inclusive society. We affirm the unity of all persons. We affirm brotherhood and sisterhood that allows us to touch upon each other's humanity. We affirm a unity that opens our eyes, ears, and hearts to see the different but common forms of oppression, of suffering, and pain. We are one, and we celebrate our hopes for human unity. Within ourselves and within the gathered community, we will discover the strength not to hide in indifference. Affirming that hope, publicly expressed, energizes and enables us to move forward. Together, we pledge action to transcend barriers, be they racial, political, economic, social, or religious. We pledge to make our tomorrows become our todays.
Thank you, Gloria, for that wonderful reading. And Kit, that was wonderful. I was delighted by that cello piece that you did. May my spirit soar, the birds. But my spirit doesn't always soar. A couple of weeks ago, I was reading an article in the Atlantic magazine, and the phrase "heartbreaking hell on earth" came into my mind as I was reading it. The article focused on a country that several of us have visited in the past. It's Romania. It's home of our partner Unitarian Church and a small picturesque village of Shemin-Falva in the Transylvanian region of Romania. In that beautiful country, something dreadfully ugly and evil had happened before we got there. And as I was reading about it in the Atlantic magazine, I couldn't even bear to finish the article, because it broke my heart when I thought about the sorrow and the suffering it described, and I couldn't look at the pictures. I didn't even do that. During the Romanian dictator Nicolae Ceausescu's oppressive communist regime a few decades ago, his government outlawed abortion, outlawed it, and outlawed contraception, and placed a tax on childless couples. Why did he do all that? Because he wanted to spur the population to strengthen his regime's economy. There was an unspeakably tragic consequence to this misguided policy. Over 100,000, probably closer to 200,000 children were abandoned in orphanages where they were rarely held or touched and never loved. The neglect these many children suffered and the damaging consequences of that lack of human love and touch was just, I won't even talk to you about that today. Sometimes I just want to avert my gaze from the untold suffering of so many beings in our world. Yet, in my heart, I know that kind of denial, it's only for my comfort. It's not for those who suffer. And for too many, life is hellish. Sometimes the causes are natural, but sometimes the causes are not natural. They're unnatural, and they're avoidable. And it could have been avoided, but it continues to exist because of the indifference of those not directly involved. I don't know if there's a hell in the afterlife or not, but I know there's one here on earth. There is a hell in this life. I've even paid a few dreadful visits myself during hard times, as I imagine most of you, all of you, have at one time or another. Well, let's get out of hell, okay? I'm sorry I had to put you there to get my reflections started, but let's think about heaven. Heaven on earth. That's where you, the congregation, and I, that's where we come in. As we regather at the beginning of this congregational year after the long separation caused by the pandemic, it's good to consider why we exist as a spiritual community. And it's very challenging to be asking you this question when I can't see you, most of the community. And I hope you're out there and I hope you're tuning in, but it's a good thing periodically to say, well, why are we here? Why are we here as a spiritual community? And one simple but profound definition of a free faith congregation such as ours is that we are a community of memory and hope. I like that. You can really think about that a lot. It can take you to some really interesting places. We are a community of memory and hope. So simple, so succinct. Now, the type of memory being called for here, a community of memory, does not mean that we remember what went on at the board meeting 20 years ago. Not that board meetings aren't important, but what we're talking about when we talk about a community of memory and hope, we're talking about a higher spiritual memory of the lofty visions and dreams and principles that our forebears, at their best, embraced and lived by. Having such a higher spiritual memory is essential. It's essential because if you don't have that, you've got spiritual amnesia. You won't remember where you've been or where you're going. So it's good to have some memory, community of memory. So where were our spiritual forebears headed? And where have we been headed? What dreams and visions have guided our ancestors and us through the complex thicket of our lives? What are we all about? It can be summed up in two words. Two words: dismantling hell. That's what we're doing here. We're dismantling hell. As my good friend, my dear friend, the Reverend Craig Morrow puts it. It was our Universalist ancestors. Let me pause here to note, for those who may not be aware of the history of our movement, we're Unitarian Universalists, two religious traditions, fairly similar, but also with some differences. They merged in 1961. But right now I'm talking about the Universalist part of our tradition. And our Universalist forebears, they embraced a radical, revolutionary, and it was absolutely heretical notion that there is no such reality as an eternal hell. And this really upset the theological apple cart in those days, and our Universalist forebears were derisively called no-hellites. No-hellites. The no-hellites. But they did. They did not believe in a hell. There were two types of Universalists, just to take you a little bit further down into the weed. There were, among whom I would probably number myself, the Restorationist Universalists. Restorationist Universalists believe that everybody should go to hell. But if you're Stalin or Hitler or somebody like that, you need to kind of burn off some bad karma. 100,000 years should do, and then you get to come up. Anyway, it was a concept I think the early Universalists borrowed from the Catholic Church, this idea of a purgatorial realm. But eventually everybody gets to heaven. The ultra-Universalists, they didn't bother with purgatory. They said everybody goes straight to heaven as soon as you stop breathing. It didn't matter, even though they fought amongst themselves over that issue, if you can believe it. But it didn't really matter because they all believed in universal salvation. There was no eternal hell, and everybody was going to make it. Which meant, if you think about it, it's not just God. It's that God's love is so great that everybody will be saved, but then that sort of sets a tone, doesn't it? And it means that every soul is to be embraced and included and affirmed as much as possible. So, you might not like this, but Universalists can't say to hell with you. I'll give you an alternative, however. It might help you out a little bit. You can say to purgatory with you if you want, and that could be pretty rough, purgatory with you. But really, to utterly condemn others forever is not something that we do, because it doesn't work. Even as our forebears dismantled theological notions of an eternal hell, so did they recognize at their best moments, when they were in tune with their own higher spiritual memories, they realized that, hey, wait a second, we're called to dismantle hell on earth too, as much as we could. Take the example of one of my favorite spiritual heroes. You probably never heard of him. He's not very well remembered. His name was the Reverend Charles Spear. Charles Spear was a fairly humble, didn't write a lot of stuff, but he served the prisoners and the poor. He would allow them to come live with him and his family when they first got out of prison. He would help them. He advocated for the abolition of the death penalty and ending cruel and unusual punishments in a time when that was just the norm. His heart was broken by the cruelty that he saw doled out by a criminal justice system of his day. And he worked. He grew old. He just died working so hard to make the world a better place, to dismantle some hell for some people, and he did. Charles Spear is part of my higher spiritual memory. Having a higher spiritual memory, it helps if you have particular individuals, too, who really did embody values and ideals that you hold dear. Here's a question. Has anyone ever dismantled some private hell for you by reaching out with compassion and concern? Or have you ever been there in such a way that you knew in your heart and from the feedback you got that your presence really was a true blessing, and that you had helped somebody get out of the hell of loneliness and hopelessness and despair? Or have you ever been part of some greater life-affirming movement that helped overcome cruel abuses and injustices, such as we saw during the past administration at the border? Or have you ever worked with others to directly alleviate poverty or provide some service? Or, shifting inward, have you, perhaps empowered by spiritual disciplines of meditation or prayer, have you ever been able to finally let go of some hellish inner pain, some confusion or anger or anxiety, and discover new levels of freedom and heavenly joy? That's wonderful when you can. There are so many ways and opportunities to dismantle inner and outer hells that we unwittingly create through our conflict and misunderstandings and fear and ignorance and hate and greed and intolerance. And when you can see, when you realize that some inner or outer hell has been dismantled, that it is possible to actually do such a thing, when you realize that you can help some welcome heaven into somebody's life, you realize this is the highest joy. This is the highest joy there is. There's nothing better than to know that you've done that. It's sacred work. It brings light where there was darkness. It's work that gives meaning and purpose to life. It's not an easy job dismantling hell. It's going to take your entire life. It's going to take all of you. It's an all-encompassing, lifelong endeavor. And it's going to take patience and perseverance. And it's going to take wisdom, too. It's going to take wisdom. You know, too often, many who believed they were dismantling hells were actually creating more of them because of their zealous, dogmatic, and inflexible ways. And that's why you often hear that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Just wanting to dismantle hell, that's a good start, but pay attention to how you do it. Anyone wanting to do the work of dismantling hell has to understand how that good impulse so often unwittingly subverts the very thing it purports to affirm. Above all, it takes good company. It takes good company. Absolutely. Can't do this by yourself. That's why you have congregations. Sometimes I talk to people, I said, my church is in the woods, and I have my own private spiritual life, and that's wonderful, but it's not enough. Even the Buddha founded a spiritual community. We have to do this together. That's why religious community is so important. Above all, it does take this company to create the heavenly conditions of love and compassion. That's our shared ministry. Everything we do here aims in the direction of facilitating this work, whether it involves serving on the facilities team, and they could use some help, or whether it involves becoming a worship leader or a member of the Lifelines lay ministry, or the finance team, or a new team that we're going to be starting, and I'll talk about it a lot more next Sunday. And right now I'm calling it the spoken word team or the homilist team. We'll figure out the name, and I'll tell you a lot more about that next week. It's going to be very interesting. So today, as you participate in our annual water communion ceremony virtually, I invite you to reflect on the vital role you play or can play in our shared ministry, wherein we seek to create a joyful home. I love that we added joyful home for free religious exploration, where we nurture the hopes and serve the needs of our world, and where we strive to get the hell out of here. Would you join me in a brief moment of quiet reflection? There's something deeper. There's something higher. There's something truer. There's something nobler. There's something more wondrous and sublime than we have yet seen. It lies before us. It's a long journey, many heartbreaks, much suffering. And yet we continue journeying together, generation after generation, learning to love, learning to be aware of one another, that we might love one another. Amen.
All life comes from water. Life started in the ocean, where it began to take its many and amazing forms. Babies are cradled in water even before they're born. Everything that lives needs water, from the smallest plants to the largest whale. From the beginning, humans have built their homes and their lives around water. Today, we celebrate water, which connects and nourishes all life. The beginning of the church year for our congregations is called homecoming. Some Unitarian Universalist congregations include a water communion ritual in today's homecoming service. This ritual typically involves members and friends bringing to the service small amounts of water which they have taken from special places during the past year. The water might have been collected from a rainstorm, a river, a lake, or even a kitchen sink. Often, the water sample is significant or symbolic in some way. And at UUCS, we carry on this tradition by first pouring a vessel of water saved from last year into a bowl at this point, and Reverend Rick is pouring the water now. Then we ask our congregation to gather with their water and in community combine the saved water with the new. Each member is asked to explain the significance of their water sample. But things, as you know, are a bit different this year. Because we're not able to congregate in person, we have asked you to send us pictures and comments about the water which you would have brought to today's water communion had we been able to meet in person. And now we have a wonderful slideshow.
Oh, I see. This water is from Ann Moore, the Pacific Ocean at Otter Crest. We've been visiting this spot for over 30 years, enjoying the sunset over Gull Rock in all kinds of weather and in all seasons. The light is different every evening. This gorgeous sunset occurred during our stay in March 2021.
Three Arches Rock in Oregon at Oceanside by Gil Nicholson Nelson.
And this water comes from Ecola State Park. And Sarah Pickett writes, "The ocean has always meant peace, serenity, everlasting life."
Ann Hannes tells us, "I am grateful for water that brings life, beauty, and joy." This photo was taken at Hosmer Lake, Oregon.
And Sarah Roars writes, "The mighty Pacific Ocean, its timeless waves are forever etched in my soul, forever ingrained in special memories of journeys and time spent alone with loved ones."
Joseph Grammer gives us this photo from Cape Kumakahi, the Big Island in Hawaii.
Gloria Holland offers some water. During our drought, she writes, "The Hollands try to conserve water, and Gloria is careful to water plants and flowers around their home with the least amount necessary of this precious natural resource."
Lisa Liermo says, "Sometimes I need only to stand wherever I am to be blessed." And I'm going to say that again because that's from Mary Oliver, the poet. "Sometimes I need only to stand wherever I am to be blessed." Each week I am blessed by Mama Ocean.
And now you're looking at a picture of Paul and Jesse Wilson's, hold on, I'm going to find it here. It's their pond, which brings them much joy.
Vicki Cunningham says, "Wallowa Lake in June, where I connected with my 7 brothers and sisters after 2 years. So nice to be together after so long."
Here we have a picture of the Puget Sound, and Lorraine Donaldson writes, "The sights and sounds and scents of the Puget Sound are a newfound experience for calming and restoring ourselves."
Jane Mout gives us, "The refreshing lake 4 of us swam in during annual outing of Shemeketans, which is a hiking club in Mount Rainier. With 100 plus temps, it was just what we needed."
Jane's sister Mary Jo writes, "Narada Falls with Rainbow, Mount Reindeer. Water has always signified summer reunions with families. Glad my sister met up with me at Rainier. And rainbows always make me happy.
Denise Cedar says, dedicated to all beavers who are the best stewards of water and creators of ecosystems on earth. Thank you, busy ones.
And Margaret Gregg, also known as Astrid, writes that underneath the walking bridge, looking into the water where our grandsons swim with the fish, the best way to spend a hot summer day.
From Doc Hadley and Lexi Hunt, the sight of the ocean or a lake or river can be breathtaking, but clean water flowing from the tap makes me grateful beyond words.
And Barbara Stebbins Bowes writes, at night the Rhine River flowing under a glittering bridge, which connects Buda to Budapest. It symbolizes beauty, hope, and connection. It's from Bob Muir and Barbara Stebbins Bowes.
And from Gloria Holland, Alan Holland enjoys kayaking on the Willamette River. Here, Alan collects water from the river that we will be using today in our water communion.
So one source of water that we in the Willamette Valley can all relate to is I call it when I first came here the Willamette River, but no, it's the Willamette. It's the Willamette River. It's a beautiful river, and it gets cleaner year by year. It's been really fouled in the past, but we're continuing to clean up this river. This river is a source of good health, good living, transportation, adventure, and beauty. And as we conclude our water communion today, let us combine water from the Willamette River as it represents our common good with waters from the past. And let us go forward with hope and promise.
Our Share the Plate recipient this month is CAUSA, an organization founded in 1995 by farm workers, Latinos, immigrants, and allies. Originally, CAUSA worked to defeat ballot measures that negatively affected the lives of Latino families in Oregon. Over the years, CAUSA has grown and now works to improve the lives of Latino immigrants and their families in Oregon through advocacy, coalition building, leadership development, and civic engagement. Latino immigrants and their families are the heart of CAUSA and inspire, implement, and champion their work. Each week, UUCS contributes to the Marion Polk Food Share. During this time of COVID-19, the requests for donations of food and money have become increasingly urgent. Please see the slide, which is coming up here, which will show you how to contribute to CAUSA and to the Marion Polk Food Share. We thank you for your kind generosity. Members of UUCS extend support, caring, and kindness to the wider community in many ways. Each week, we light the social justice candle to remind us of this ministry. And as we extinguish these chalices today, let us go remembering these words from Thich Nhat Hanh. Water flows from high in the mountain. Water runs deep in the earth. Miraculously, water comes to us and sustains all life. Water and sun green these plants. When the rain of compassion falls, even a desert becomes an immense green ocean.
I have a couple of announcements to make to draw your attention to. We are really wanting to create good opportunities for you to be aware of all the ways that you can be involved in the life and ministry of our congregation. And so we've invited Lorna Youngs to talk about some of those opportunities. So good to see you, Lorna. Come on up and tell us what you can.
Thank you, Rick. I want to
There we go.
thank you, Rick. I want to give you a brief encouragement to think about becoming a member of one or the other of the teams that I happen to chair. They're Finance and Lifelines, and they're two teams that I think are really integral to the functioning of this congregation. Everybody knows that you can't run an organization without money, and you need to make sure that that money is well managed. The finance team works with the treasurer and reports to the board, and we plan for and oversee the financial health and operation of the church. It's perhaps not a really exciting, sexy team, but if you have an interest in finance, and I think more people should understand the finances of this church, it's a small team, and it certainly could use an infusion of new ideas and new energy. The more information about what the finance team does can be found on our website. The second team is really speaking to Reverend Rick's sermon today, and that is Lifelines Lay Ministry. In any congregation, at any one time, there are people who are suffering and are in need of support and care. And Lifelines Lay Ministry does that. We work with individuals who are in a temporary situation of sorrow and pain, or some people who just need to be monitored, like we pay attention to our elderly members who are in assisted living, or maybe living on their own. But you all know that whenever you've had an opportunity to be there for someone else, to provide support and care, that you have come away from that experience as enriched and as supported as they have been. So both teams are small, both teams have big responsibilities and could dearly use your help, and you'd have our undying gratitude if you cared to join us. And the other thing is they are well-established teams, so we are able to get you up and running in no time. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Lorna Youngs, you have my undying gratitude for all the beautiful and wonderful things you've done here for our congregation. You've really blessed us in so many ways. And we invite others of you to do the same. It's so important. So let me see a show of hands. How many of you have pets? I'm at home, everybody's raising their hand. And we really want to see a picture of your pet for our animal blessing service on the first Sunday of October the 3rd, you can send in your picture of your pet to productionteam@uusalem.org. It's all just lowercase, productionteam@uusalem.org. And pay attention to other announcements that pertain to the life of this congregation. We're unfortunately still having to be closed, but I want to thank our reopening team. They're always meeting weekly to discern when is the time when it will be safe for us all to join. And as you can see, the animal blessing slide is up, and I've already told you about that. And I look forward to seeing the wonderful pictures of your pets. Do we have any other announcements? We can forward the slides. I'm not sure what's next. So you can sign up for Fellowship Hour and pay attention to the announcements. I'll just leave it at that. And thank you. Yeah.
Our closing hymn today is Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. It's number 301 in the gray hymnal.
Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores while spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our faith a quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, children ask the reasons why. In our lives the answers show, and by your love they learn and grow. Touch the earth, reach the sky, all are born and all shall die. Life's the time left in between, to follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky, hug the laughter, feel the cry. May we see where light can give, for this is what it means to live. Touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage ever high, spirits joining as we fly, to touch the earth, to reach the sky.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Wherever you are, however you feel, take a moment, please, and join us in saying our closing words. May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come. So be it.